Hi, welcome to episode 14. This is the You're Doing Great, Mom podcast. I'm Dr. Marianne Shiozawa. Here's another different episode where I sit down for the first time on my podcast with my husband, and we just have a conversation. My husband is definitely eccentric. He's also very funny. And we are very different from each other, which happily, for the most part, it makes things work between us. We also like to discuss a lot about a lot of things. Trouble is, for me, he knows about a lot of stuff. More stuff than me. We met back in New York in 2004. I know this might sound naughty, and I can assure you that it wasn't. He was a patient of mine. Basically, for 3 months, he asked me out in creative ways to try to impress me. And I finally said, yes, I'll go out with you, but it's not a date. I don't, and I have never socialized with any patients. So we went out for our first non-date, and I guess you can say the rest is history. It was his English accent and voice that did it for me. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Many of our friends have told us that we should record a podcast episode. So my husband and I, we've been toying with that. We've been toying with it for quite a while. And finally, after organizing ourselves, we managed to record this last night, Sunday, 18th of June. Also, at the end of my last episode, the one with Mandy Adams and her teachings about the menstrual cycle, I promised that the next episode would be with my husband, giving his thoughts about his interpretation of it. I probably should have known back then that it wouldn't turn out to be a very good idea. Well, he did happen to listen to the episode twice, and he told me he took notes. I'm not exactly sure why, but part of me thinks it's because he just didn't understand it. In fact, I know he didn't understand a lot of what Mandy said because he seemed to miss some key things. And then he starts talking about the economic implication of women taking days off because of her red tent days. First, for those of you who are listening and haven't listened to the last episode, episode 13, let me explain. A red tent day is a practice that Mandy Adams teaches about for women. She also creates red tent days for herself because this works for her in her life. It is a time for a woman, for herself, when she needs to take a break, get away, and revive herself. These red tent days typically happen between the time frame after a woman ovulates and before she starts having her period, bleeding into her next cycle. This time for a woman is designed by her and can be anywhere from an hour or a few hours to however many days she feels she needs and how practical it can fit into her life. My husband seemed to misunderstand this, and we start getting into a debate about it.
Men are simple creatures. If it works, it works. One thing that I haven't explained to you yet, my love, that Mandy did, quite fun. When it was her time, she got in her little red tent and went to the end of the garden and disappeared for 2 days. And this was her special time when she liked to lie on the earth and do all these other semi-mystical things for reasons that just because she did. And there was no mention in this of economics. Not particularly surprising given the nature of the interviewee and the nature of the discussion. So let's imagine we now have a set of rules, whether they're hard rules or soft rules, this is what men are meant to do, or hard rules, this is what men have to do. There's a set of rules where when it's a red tent day, you're expected to allow your female staff to have a red tent day or 2 red tent days, disappearing to the bottom of their garden and not showing up to work. Now, employers are these wicked, capitalist, evil types who believe that if they pay someone money to show up to work to do a job, that the people taking the money should show up to work to do the job. I know that there's a whole group of people out there who think it's wicked and evil and nasty and why capitalists all smoke big cigars. I used to smoke big cigars. But it's still true. People employing people expect the people who are employed to show up. And if women get red tent days twice a month, well, a sensible employer is going to try to avoid employing women. That's illegal. So you've got to do it subtly. It's still illegal and you might be caught. In which case, there is another backup alternative. Don't employ people at all. Employ machines. Go to your local supermarket. Look at the 4 self-service tills. They are there because it is expensive to employ people to stand behind a counter. If you make it more expensive to employ people by giving women red tent days to go and lie on the earth and be mystical, it won't work out well. It'll increase female unemployment, people will sue about sex discrimination, it'll increase everybody's unemployment. There was no mention of this by Mandy.
Okay, but there was mention, which you failed to hear or understand. So here I was, listening to my husband state his opinion about the part of Mandy's episode, and his takeaway from it is about corporations being sued. Needless to say, I was pretty surprised, and you can hear the frustration in my voice. Women, if they are employed in any kind of company, they're not going to just say, okay, I'm taking 2 days off just randomly. And actually, you know, there are some companies where they allow a certain... I've never been good at debates, and it's never been easy for me to articulate my thoughts during debates. My older brother was on the high school debate team. I wasn't. What my husband failed to understand was that every woman, during a certain time in her cycle after ovulation, she has a desire and a need to do a certain level of self-care, putting more attention to herself in however it can refuel her energy levels, her moods, and her simple ability to cope with her everyday crazy life. What I heard my husband say that he understood from Mandy was that if every woman demands 2 days off every month, that's going to cause problems in the workforce. That's certainly understandable. What he didn't seem to understand was that it's not black and white like that. You're being very black and white, because I think that a woman is going to be able to judge her, and it's not about taking time off from work every month. It's the principle and understanding about a woman's cycle, and that within every cycle, there is a time that she needs to revert into herself, her needs and her desires. And what that might look like is, for example, going to get a massage on a Sunday while her husband takes care of the kids, and it's not something that she normally does. It might look like she takes a half day on a weekend to be with some girlfriends, or it could possibly be something like taking 2 days off, like what Mandy does. It's not about telling and teaching women that they deserve to take 2 days off every month and that it's expected. Actually, she can't take off 2 days for her rented 10 days every single month, which calculates to be what you just said. Then my husband just continues and goes into data about hiring women and the possibility that she will get pregnant at some point in her life while she's employed. This is just a classic day in our household, and it's just a glimpse. My husband communicates like this 90% of the time. Well, maybe 70%. See and appreciate your interpretation. I'm not making it wrong. I think your interpretation, I understand your interpretation.
The law already dumps a fair proportion of the pregnancy risk onto employers. Employers have to pay money to these staff who are not showing up. Now, there are good societal reasons for doing that. So I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying that society does put a fair part of the pregnancy cost on employers, and that makes some employers less enthusiastic about employing women who are likely to get pregnant. That has them in court. There's been 30 years of court cases. Even where employers have chosen a non-pregnant female over a fit pregnant female, employers have been sued for sex discrimination. Now you want to put more of the cost on? You're going to go through this whole fiasco again of employers going, damn it, a machine will be cheaper. It'll actually be there at work. And in a world where we were competing only with ourselves, that we could get away with some things. A world where we compete with the Europeans, the Americans, the Canadians, the cheap but less productive Asian workforce, and with the machines. And the machines are better and better employees. We don't need to make employing people, particularly young people, more expensive. That was what I heard. I'm sure it wasn't what was meant.
Okay, I am a little surprised that that's what you heard. I'm actually kind of disappointed that you heard that, and that's really what you got from the message or from the episode. I
got the be nice to your woman when it's a fragile time. Know how hygienic.
This conversation wasn't going the way we both thought it would go. We wanted it to be a little lighter, a little funnier, but it didn't really go that way. And then we both agreed that we needed to change the subject to something a little less serious. I don't really know if it's beneficial to continue in this line of conversing.
Fine, let's talk about something else.
I just think
we had a whole discussion about how to tell your husband he's fat. Do you want to? And I said you could say something. Humorous things could be said about it. Is that too close to the line for some listeners? E.g. me. I'm a top of lard. It's all made of the finest beer and vintage port. So criticism will be entirely wrong, but nonetheless, when the list of sleek, fit gym rats is made, I don't feature early.
Yes. So for people who don't know my husband, you can hear that he's got a very posh British accent.
If you should find yourself in New York with a new job, looking at tall, slinky chiropractoress, let me strongly recommend having a buttery, posh British accent. It works wonders.
Julian likes his beer and likes his alcohol, particularly port, and he also likes his meat and potatoes. I mean, he's a meat and potatoes kind of guy. And I think he's very British. But then again, that's just through my American ears and eyes. So we get along mostly very well, but we are very, very different, both in personality and in culture. And your style is also, for just in general, very eccentric.
That can be charming.
And
I'm not denying it.
I think that people who do listen to this, they're either going to love him or love this episode or hate it and be totally offended and think, oh my gosh, like, how the hell, I mean, you just... I'm just glad we've switched our conversation to a little lighter and more, hopefully, more humorous topic. But yes, we did have a conversation about people who need to be told that they've gained a little bit weight.
Gained a little bit? Nobody needs to be told they've gained a little bit of weight. You're 2 pounds heavier than you were a year ago. I mean, whoopee-doo. Go for a defecation and you can lose that. The problem isn't people who've gained a little bit. It's the people who've just rounded out. You were a straight up and down sort of thing, taller than wide.
Yes, we started talking about something totally silly, and yet for a lot of people, a sensitive subject. In our relationship, I'm the one who's always been into exercise, watching my weight and trying to keep fit. In fact, when we met in 2004, I had just done an Ironman triathlon, and so that just tells you how much I spent my time being active. I'm not that active anymore. But Julian, on the other hand, his exercise regime or his idea of exercise is walking to the pub and doing bicep curls with his pint of beer from bar to lips. And more exercise is walking from pub to pub. In fact, I think he has this brilliant idea. In fact, he told me about this idea that he created with his friends. This new kind of triathlon called the Gentleman's Triathlon. It consists of 8 pints of beer, then 2 bottles of port, and then a 5K. What could go wrong? Surely we'd see the gentleman passed out every 10 meters all throughout the 5K.
Subject originally started because my wife, after our first child, lovely child, the pregnancy weight didn't all disappear.
Here, I started to talk about how I naturally gain weight during each of my pregnancies. And for me, it was hard to lose the weight post-pregnancy. And the breastfeeding seemed to only make me hungrier. And the weight didn't drop as easily as I thought it would. You'll drop the weight and, you burn so many calories, and which is true, and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of women do drop the weight quite easily. I know a lot of women that actually lose even more weight and they're thinner than before they were pregnant. No, that was not me. There are a lot of other women where the weight just, no matter how much you breastfeed, and I exclusively breastfed, and they sucked tons of milk out of me. I was making a lot of milk. So, you can argue that I was burning a lot of calories too. I did not lose the weight very easily. I think I ended up becoming about 20 to 30 pounds overweight, which is about 12 to 15 kilos overweight. And so for all 3 pregnancies, it was just a big struggle. And yet you were quite gentle. Well, you were gentle. You were like, oh, you're a mom. You're a mom. That's kind of what you said. This, I think, is when Julian can be funny. His humor is pretty simple. Either you love it or you hate it. I call it male humor, and he's good at it. But maybe I'm biased. Because it was my issue.
So our conversation was, how do you tell a woman she's a tub of lard? And that's actually very, very easy. Since there's meant to be male listeners, let me tell you. You don't. She looks in the mirror and she knows. Or she doesn't look in the mirror because she knows. They are the only 2 cases. In either case, she knows. And you saying, oi, fat wench, get me a beer, is not going to end happily. Let me just be absolutely clear. Just not going to work. The other way around is much easier. How do you tell a husband he's a tub of lard? Husband, you're a tub of lard. Sure, behold. That's totally easy. Husband, you're fat, you're round, you bounce on the ground. Yeah, I know. Well, I haven't tried the bouncing. It would probably help. It's just that way round is easy. Telling the woman, you can try the gentlest, most indirect, soft hint, and it's going to be like that time of the month, 5 times stronger.
Wait a minute.
So
when you said you're a mum, that was a hint?
No.
What was that?
It was bland, my not getting in trouble reassurance. Also, it was my first time being married, my first time as a father. I hadn't gone out with pregnant women or women who'd just given birth before. So I didn't have a full range of stats as to what proportion of women managed to lose the weight and which didn't. And I can also see that even if I wanted something done, there is nothing you can do. Hear it, swallow it, be quiet, stand up, go get your own beer.
At the time of our conversation, I couldn't really think about a way that would be comfortable and effective for me, or for women in general, to be told that I've gained weight. But I'm only speaking about my experience. Since this conversation with my husband, I've asked a few of my friends, and they gave their point of view. One friend said that her husband asked her, "Are you feeling healthy lately? Maybe we should eat less pizza." I thought that was interesting because it wasn't a direct and blunt way to go. He was still skirting around the issue. So I think for the most part, my husband might be right that you don't say anything. But I'm sure for some women, there is a way they can be told without them feeling horrible about themselves. But in this conversation, it's not really the main issue. My husband and I turn it around pointing at the men. In general, it is easier to tell a man that he's put on some fat.
Whereas I don't look in mirrors because I just don't look in mirrors. Okay. They don't interest me.
Well, you don't, again, you're just eccentric. You're different. You don't really...
But handling of men, completely different. When I have a good friend who quite gravely needs to lose the weight. So, long index finger, jab in belly, this is killing you. Lose it.
Is that what you do when you see him?
Yes. Not mentioning names. And he doesn't like me without being told things bluntly. And indeed he's quite happy to tell me things equally bluntly, and that's fine too. He needs to lose the lard and gets told it at full strength. But then again, I'm not... If he says I'm not going to sleep with you, well, yeah, you weren't. And I don't want you to just go away. That, with a woman, with a wife, it's not going to work. You can't. As I said, husbands, oi, fatso. I left my glass of wine in the kitchen. Would you get it for me, please? Sure, my love. Anything else? No problem.
I think you just have to be careful because I do know some guys that are very, very, they pay attention to their weight, and also not only their weight, but because if they gain weight with muscle, that's a good thing. But if they got fatter with more body fat percentage, that's a no-no. And I think that they're a little more sensitive. Because if you said, I mean, I don't know if I could say that to a certain few guys that I know that are very concerned with their build because they go to the gym all the time and they want to look really lean and good. So I think there's just a range of men, and I just think I don't really look at you as a generalization. I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak for, I don't know.
I'm not very good at handling sensitive men. I mean, it's just like, with women, particularly in personal matters like that, I'm fully capable of just the right thing to say is absolutely nothing. With men, if in the pub having a friendly conversation, don't feel the need to be delicate or shy.
You could just say, "Oh, hey, nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. You put on some weight."
Well,
but I mean, you guys don't talk like that, do you?
Not professionally, but the people I know outside work, sure.
Okay.
You've porked up a bit. What happened to you?
Oh my God. I don't know if I could... I might be able to do that to like one or two of my really close friends. Or I can do that to my sister, I think. She never gains weight, so I mean...
Yes, you can do it to people for whom it's clearly not true. Like
No. I'm talking about, like, you know who I'm talking about. You know my close friends.
Yes.
After listening to this while editing, I've realized that I was wrong. I've changed my mind. On second thought, actually, I don't know if I could tell my sister something as blunt as, "You've porked up." I don't know. It's really a sensitive issue for most women, I think. Knowing my sister, I probably would say something, but only if I knew it was hurting her health or causing a problem in her quality of life.
To your sister, because your sister's just... she has to be pregnant to look fat.
No. But it's all relative because you don't know how... let's say, like, she could totally stand to gain 10 pounds, like in her non-pregnant state. She could totally stand to gain 10 pounds and still look amazingly beautiful. But to her, that might be just devastating. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can't judge how she's going to feel about herself. It might actually be really sensitive. Even so, okay, I could still tell her...
Let's take an interesting, awkward case. Let's take a woman who is actually a bit too skinny, and she's gained 6 pounds, and she's gained it a little in the face, and a little on the breasts, and a little on the hips, and she looks fantastic because of it. None on the waist. So let's say we've had a small weight gain, which is all improvement. Could a man say,
"You look great.
You've put on half a stone. It looks fantastic on you. Please don't lose it." Oh, could a man say,
Well,
I could see that I might say that, and I could see me getting in big trouble for saying it. Yeah, I could see both halves of that. And I'm not talking about somebody who needs to lose weight who gets even heavier. I mean, I could lose weight, and if I lost some weight, I could still need to lose more. But I'm talking about somebody who needed to put on 6 or 7 pounds, particularly if it goes on the face. It can be very good for a woman's looks. Ooh, could you say that? Could you just say you look fantastic and not mention anything? Yeah, it's cowardly, but it's probably sensible. I think I recommend being a chicken.
I think it's...
Cluck, cluck.
I think that you can't tell. It just... I think you're being very male right now. At this point, we weren't really getting anywhere, and we were just wrapping up the conversation. And my husband decides to sum it up and conclude...
Okay, so I'll give you the final dieting advice. I leave tomorrow at 9 o'clock to go on holiday with some of my friends. It's a port drinking holiday in Oporto and Villanova de Gaia. I'm not actually sure. Well, there are 2 medical schools of thought. One medical school of thought is held by most doctors, which is that this is unhealthy. And the other medical school of thought is held by me, which is this is a fantastic plan and I should do it more often. So there we are. You can take your pick. Which school of thought do you follow?
Yeah, usually when you come back from those trips, you need a little bit of a detox.
I do several dry days.
Several. You need several dry weeks.
Well, I was going to do 1 dry week, but...
Detox. Major detox.
No, just balancing out.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered some interesting...
I think we've had some light conversation of very little consequence.
Okay. Well, that remains to be seen. I'm going to be happy to share this with some people that will definitely get some good entertainment from this episode.
Right here.
Okay. This is the part where I say, thank you very much for being here with me. I'm so excited.
But none of your
That's
people are
say.
here with you. They come by Skype, so they're not actually here. And I didn't come here.
And this is the part where we get into a little marital spat, which I'm turning down and using the cool, fun, upbeat music to make it sound more entertaining. Hopefully you've enjoyed my husband's debut presence on my podcast, and people will ask for more of him. Actually, it'll probably go one of 2 ways. It'll either become my most downloaded episode, or the only downloads are from our direct family and friends. But I can assure you, there's a lot more from him. And my husband is a lot of fun. And I think, if anything, putting his opinions and ideas to good use, like recording his ideas on my podcast, can lead to interesting things. I hope you enjoyed it.
How did I say that?
Oh, well, that's much better.
And actually,
That's merit being
I
true.
said to you, because literally you are here with me having this conversation. So
Well, you said
what's...
thanks for coming, and the coming wasn't very much of it, because I just barely came at all. I was already here. I was in the building.
Okay, this is...
I expect this bit will be cut.
Yeah, probably.
The danger of giving these interviews.
Remember to subscribe to my podcast. You're doing great, Mom. Also, I'd really love it if you posted a review. Let me know what you think, and tell me if you want to hear more of my husband. Go to my website, you'redoinggreatmom.com. Remember, it's Y-O-U-R-E, not Y-O-U-R. Stay tuned for my next episode with Harriet Whaley Cohen, personal life coach and speaker extraordinaire. Thanks for listening.
The danger of giving these interviews is that I have no control over the post-production process, in which anything I said that was particularly tart gets removed, and the things I say that are safe get left in, and I just look dull and safe. Maybe that would be an improvement.
Yeah, but that would be a wrong...
An improvement of my current reputation. Yeah, okay.
No, that would just be a completely false representation of who you are. Why would I want to do that?
Good.
Okay, great. All right.
Where's the stop button?